welcome to another On Purpose podcast. This is a new segment, and we're so excited that you're here. Remember to like and to share and to subscribe. And I share things with you that I love, so I hope you share this platform with your family, your friends, your coworkers. Okay? So again, I am Thawana, and this is On Purpose. And I promised you that we were coming back for a part 2, Showing Up Afraid with James Presley. So he needs no introduction because he is here. Give him some virtual applause. Woo! We're back.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back again.
Okay. The last segment was amazing. My head is still spinning in a great way.
Yes.
And so what I hope is that this is something that will help people to see themselves and to see that no matter where they come from, doesn't matter what they've done, they can still turn things around.
Yes.
But fear will probably be present.
Yes.
But that should not stop them.
No. It should not stop.
It should not stop them.
It should not.
Okay, so first of all, again, this is Showing Up Afraid. All right? As Christians, we understand fear. We should not give in to it. All those things, I get it. But as natural human beings, it does creep up.
Yes.
And sometimes it is tough to overcome. And sometimes it takes just practical things.
Yes.
Prayer does work. I'm not saying that it does not. But sometimes you need those day-to-day practical things like you talked about in the last segment with the student, with the beads, and what you had to say to him when he asked you that question.
Yes.
So for anybody that missed that segment, okay, tell us a little bit about that moment again, and then we're going to segue right into Showing Up Afraid.
So, sometimes these moments that we have, personally and professionally, as well as in church, they are used to shift us when we are in a comfortable space.
Mm-hmm.
So the story you're alluding to is I was in a space where I was the dean and head coach in Orlando, and I had a moment with a young man who asked me a profound question that became the anthem of my leadership and still is to this day. His question was, well, he was in a gang, born into a gang, and I was trying to talk him out of the gang without knowing he was born in. It wasn't his choice. He was born into it. And he asked the profound question of, how do you get out of something you were born into? And that was a moment where there was, the situation became more than about what he and I was dealing with. It kind of grew on me. And it made me think at a whole nother level of my leadership, because I was aspiring to transition from coaching to administration. And my administrative experiences have not been cookie cutter.
Okay.
I'm not interested in a school grade. I'm not interested in the state of Florida telling me that I'm a A school or a B
Wow.
school. I'm not interested in that. What I've been interested in that moment was building a culture where students can overcome what they were born into.
Because they had no choice.
Had no choice. And to utilize education as the vehicle to start the process. It's not the beginning and end all, but it starts the process of getting in their minds that there is more and there could be more. My father, my entire life until I was 16, was serving time in prison. I got a chance to meet him at 16 years old, finally.
Wow, for the first time?
For the first time.
Really?
Like, for real, like, remembering. And he was around when I was a child, but an infant. So I didn't remember him. So, so when he got out of prison, you know, I understand the absence of a father, and a lot of the students who I encounter have that same situation. I also understand a student who's dealing with a parent that's incarcerated. I can have those conversations with them about how do you navigate that missing piece that you need so much when they're behind bars.
Because you had that. That was you.
My first fear that I can remember as a child was the fear of going to prison. When I visited my father for the first time, I was 9 years old. And till this day, I could still hear the clinging of the doors as I was walking to where we had to visit, and when those doors would shut.
Because they close
Metal
behind
doors.
you. Like
Yeah.
I like to say I did 10 years in prison, but I didn't actually. I worked 10 years in prison, and so the sound of you going into one door, but then the other one has to close behind you, because that's typically the way prison works.
Yeah.
And so you never forget that
You
sound.
never forget it. I
So
was
to
9,
hear that at 9 years old,
It's-
I'm sure that
It stuck with me so much that no one knew at my house. When I was in the restroom, I would stand and look in the mirror, and I would say to myself, you will never go to prison.
Oh my
9 years
goodness.
old, you will never go to prison, because the way that those doors sounded and seeing the bars and all of the other stuff.
So while we're on that, do you think that is a place? It's a very sticky subject. And I know kids need to see their parents, but what are your honest thoughts on can a kid be too young to go to visit at a place like that, or I don't know, like.
As an African American male who understands our history of bondage and the desire to be free, when you're living in a small town and you hear things from individuals who tell you you're going to be just like your daddy.
Wow.
So to go and see what that meant motivated me to say, you will never go to prison, i.e., you will not be like your daddy.
So
for me, it worked.
Yeah.
For others, it depends on the situation, of course, but I think it could be a good experience through the grace of God and other things. I just had an experience with it that I never forgot, and I didn't want to be that. I had some close calls.
Did you
But
now?
to God be the glory. I've never been incarcerated at all. In fact, the last episode we talked about my experience in Tallahassee
And your list.
and my list.
Your list.
Prior to going to Tallahassee, I'm with a group of friends. I'm 2 weeks before Tallahassee. I'm with a group of friends. I'm going home. I get home, there's a car in where I was living in Wildwood with some friends, some other friends. They say we're going to Mount Dora, would you like to go? I get in the car, we go. We get out by the mall, and my friend's speeding, lights get behind us, and one of the boys in the car says, hey, what are we gonna do with this gun?
Uh-oh.
And now it's me and my friend, who had nothing to do with what was in that car, is in it. We're in this car, and the lights are behind us, we're in it. I am pulled over in the same town that I'm the community control probationary officer for juveniles. The office that I work in is 3 blocks away from this stop. And the lights are on. And sometimes we can be too smart for our own good. And I said to them, hey, let me have it. Give it to me. And I put the gun down in the seat where I was sitting. They get us out of the car. They search the car. And an officer comes straight to me. And I'm sitting there with handcuffs in a vehicle while they decide, is this gun clean or dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there and I'm praying mama prayers in the
Oh.
police car.
Okay.
I remember mama prayers.
Oh my God.
So I'm laying them down. And the guy comes over and lets me out, takes the cuffs off of me, takes me back to my friends, and he said, take this car, return to Sumter County. If I see you all again in Lake County, you're all going to jail.
Oh my God.
We go back. I go to the training. A week after the training, before I get this call about the apartment, a friend of mine who's in the car, he calls me. I'm on the corner, just chilling. He calls me. We walk behind the store, and he says, hey, you remember the other night you were in that car with the cuffs on you and you had nothing to do with that foolishness? He said, when they put you in the car, I said to them, I know y'all are not going to let this man go to jail for a thing that he had nothing to do with, and y'all know he didn't. I won't say exactly what he said they said, but they wasn't coming to my rescue.
Uh-oh.
And I looked at him, and I said, what did you say? I had blood relatives in that car. So, in that moment, I was like, none of this crap is true. All my life in the hood, ride or die, pour out one for your dead homie. All of those lies about people will stand in the gap for you and help you. I knew right then and there I had to get up out of here.
Oh,
And that's when my prayer and my faith to leave Wildwood intensified, because I knew nobody got your back here, bro. You got to get up out of here. You already met the Lord in Tallahassee. You tore up the list. You're trying to live different. You didn't even want to be out. But the fear of not fitting in is real.
It's real.
Because when you step out on faith, sometimes it moves you and transitions you above those that you have walked through the valley with, and everybody's not happy when you make those kind of decisions. So we talked about the prophet who spoke a prophetic word, and my friend, my brother, tosses me some keys. I don't want this position. I don't want it. It's been prophesied. He throws me the keys. Everything there says that this is time for you to make a divine decision. But database decisions are in my head. The evidence is sometimes speaking louder than the divine.
Right.
So what I see, what I think I know, and what I heard is having a problem. So I don't fill out the application.
Because stuff ain't lining up for you.
I don't fill out the application because I don't want to go through this.
Yeah.
I got enough sense to know that if I'm the principal of this school, that it's not going to just be peaches and cream. I know I got to fight.
Yeah.
Because there's still yet, believe it or not, this was 2016. In the year 2000 of our Lord, the color of my skin creates data that doesn't sit well with everyone. And I knew it. I grew up in that town. I grew up in that county. So I had child age fears in my head. So I don't fill the application out. I'm struggling.
Really?
I'm struggling, Tawana. I'm struggling, but guess what? I always wanted the position. I served as assistant principal for 7 years before this position became available. I was in a comfortable space, but I wanted to be a principal. But when that door opened,
Yeah, yeah.
There was
Even
a
though it's
wall.
what you wanted, you always wanted, the fear of the reality was,
that evidence
yes.
I know exists.
How long did it take you to fill out the application?
The position was going to close the next day. And I talked myself into filling it out before the position closed, before you could fill out an application. And then I interviewed and tried to sabotage God.
Stop.
I did.
Tell us about that.
I went into that interview. I was prepared. I could have answered all 26 of those questions.
Mm-hmm.
But I was trying to put the decision of not taking this position on them.
On them.
Because I didn't want to fight this fight. I didn't want to fight this fight.
Did you have time to consult with anybody before you decided to do the application, or it was really just you and God?
As an African American administrator and leader in this area,
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes we're alone.
Oh, wow.
We're alone. There's not many that look like me
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that could understand it. Of course, there's national leaders, but
Yeah.
you gotta
somebody
be in
you
the
can
zone.
touch. Yeah,
you
yeah.
gotta know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
See, if you don't know Jackson Street, you don't know Webster,
Yeah,
you don't
you
know
can't.
Coleman, you don't know Royal,
There's
you
no
don't know
connection.
Oxford, you don't know the history,
Mm-hmm.
then you're gonna give me some national response to a local situation.
I got you.
And I didn't need that, and I didn't want that. But in my area, there was not many, but I found one.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in and try to sabotage. I think it worked because they haven't made a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And normally I know about the time frame in which they make decisions. They hadn't made a decision.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't heard yes nor no. So I was like, they're gonna choose somebody else and let me off this hook. I can just stay in my assistant principal office and continue to do what I've been doing for 7 years. This is great.
This is great.
But God,
But God.
they give me the position, and you got your seatbelt on.
I do when I'm nervous.
They give me the position, and for 2 years, I go through pure hell as the principal of that school. Nothing that I do or say works. Nothing. Nothing that I do or say is believed, and most things that I say are twisted and flipped into something that I didn't say. For 2 years, I couldn't understand. Couldn't understand how I was the beloved assistant principal. Everybody loved me.
Everybody, y'all.
But when I became the leader
That thing shifted, didn't
of
it?
that school, and it just so happened that the school became a combined school, which means all of the babies in the region that attends a public school in that city is under my leadership. And who I am is more than a problem than what I am. I'm James
That's
Presley
powerful.
from Jackson Street,
Jackson Street.
whose father is a convicted felon who did most of his crime in the city, and his mother is a waitress making $2.10 an hour on Jackson Street, raising 7 kids
7 kids.
who had oftentimes had to move in the middle of the night, carrying furniture because she couldn't pay the rent.
Wow.
And now I am the instructional leader of most kids in that city, 6 to 12. And it was a fight
Wow.
for 2 years. I couldn't fight it anymore because my daughter was in that school my first year. And she was the person that God used to shift me along.
Yes. Okay.
To where we are now.
To where we are now.
She would come home crying a lot. Her fire and her motivation to graduate from FAM to God be the glory, in 3 months. She told us about 3 months on a family Zoom call with the kids and her and my son, he's not the sit in the class kid. He said, he said his sister always had been motivated to get grades. That's just not my thing, but she's always had a motivation. And she said, I haven't always been motivated. It was the students at the school where Dad was a principal who told me every day that I was making A's and B's because my daddy was the principal. When I walk across the stage at FAMU, no one will be able to say that I graduated because my dad was here.
Wow.
So that's my motivation.
That's her
From
motivation.
7th grade.
So she got that in her head. She didn't like that. She didn't like the way it made her feel like she was not doing the work.
She couldn't catch a break because of me, because of my position. So she had her own struggle going. And then her struggle became the reason why I decided it's time to seek another place. So it's the prom, senior prom, my second year as principal. I'm in year 2 of the war.
The war.
The battle.
The battle.
And I'm getting ready to leave the house to go to the prom location, and I don't realize, and I don't know how I didn't realize, but I don't realize that my daughter is getting ready to attend her first spring formal as a 7th grader. And when I get ready to grab the doorknob to leave, she says, "Daddy." And when I heard her voice, it registered. OMG. She said, "Are you gonna miss the pictures?" And I'm like this, like, holy crap. So your family's coming over, everybody's gonna be there. They're gonna put the pictures on Facebook. I'm gonna see them, blah, 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 blah. I shoot her a quick one because you can't be late to the senior prom, not the principal.
No.
So I head out, and I'm sitting in that prom, and I'm reflecting on how close I am to becoming a public success and a private failure. I am about to lose my daughter.
Wow.
But I'm in this prom celebrating other people's children, and I'm sitting in the dark, and my phone starts buzzing, and I look at it, and everybody in her life is in the pictures on Facebook.
But you.
Except me. I put my phone down. I look up in the dark at those students having a great time. And in year 2, I looked up at the ceiling and I said, "God, I'm done. Wow. I am done."
In that
with this.
moment.
I got home. I told Yolanda, I said, "Yolanda, Monday morning, I'm going to call the superintendent and I'm resigning. I'm going to ask him to transfer me to this alternative school where a friend of mine is getting ready to retire, so that I can not lose my family, because when you are an administrator of a 6 through 12 school and you're everywhere all the time because your job requires it, you could become a public success but a private failure. And it scared me. Wow. That was the fear I had of becoming that. After all of these years, I was becoming that.
Wow.
So she said, "I know your heart. You're not going to do that.
That's Yolanda.
You're not going to do that." And I said, "Okay." I woke up Monday morning, 5:30. I knew my superintendent gets at his desk at 7, and I'm there 5:30 waiting. 7 o'clock hit, I called him. I said, "Sir, I want to put in a request to be transferred to the location where my friend is getting ready to retire. And he says, take 24 hours and pray about this. And I said, sir, I've already prayed.
Uh-oh.
And that night, I took 6 resignation letters. I think I was supposed to take 3, but I took 6.
Give y'all some extra
I was
ones.
ready to go. And then he granted me the transfer. And then I didn't show up at the new school on purpose. I went to the beach, and for a week, I asked God to take everything out of me that I had learned. I wanted something fresh and new. So when the superintendent asked me my vision for that school, I didn't give him something old and stale. I gave him something fresh and new. I said, I don't know what my vision for the school is. And he snapped back like any superintendent would. Wait, I got a leader who's telling me he don't know where he's going? And I said, sir, I have since learned the beach experience. That I am not going to go to that school and place anything on those people. I'm going to go to that school and I'm going to talk to them and I'm going to listen to them. And I'm going to marry myself to them. And I did. And then I started looking at the data. And one question that I asked those people after meeting with them individually, I decided to meet with them as a group. And when I was on the beach, one of the things I decided to stop doing is trying to have all the answers as the leader. Stop feeling the pressure of having the answer because you don't have to have it.
You don't.
You think you do.
Yes.
And that pressure of fearing that you don't and you're in this position. Oh my God, how can you be there? And you're the leader.
Yes.
And you're leading us. And you say, what? You don't know?
Where you going?
You said you don't know?
Yes. That pressure.
I shedded it. I shedded the pressure of always having an answer to this, having a question.
Wow.
And I sat down in front of them and I told them, I said, listen, I've talked to you individually. And so now I want to bring you in together. And this is when the new school was birthed, literally. One question. I said, I've looked over your school and talked to you all. I've read my notes from each of you individually, and I noticed a common theme. You all have a very structured, sometimes perceived as strict, school that has every rule known to man and consequences to match. There is no question on what you expect from these students. But here's my question. And I waited until the room got quiet and I leaned into them and I said, what do you all do here when a student does something good?
Wow. Missing that piece.
And I let it sit.
Wow.
And they got that look on their faces, some discolored, some had that look of embarrassment because I knew what the answer was. They didn't have an answer.
Wow.
So then I was able to share my vision. We're going to build a culture here where we recognize and celebrate students 3 times as much for positive behaviors than we do for writing them up for breaking your rules. In fact, our student handbook will not have a rule. It will have 5 expectations. And if you all will come back a week before we start school, I will have some questions for you that if you will answer those questions, then we will build this culture. They came back, and every year for 11 years, I've been there, this is my 11th year.
Has it been 11 years?
Yeah. Every year, we have what's called a leadership day. And that leadership day is simply questions from me that I already know the answer to, that I need them to discover. They have to discover my answers in order to see what I see. Because I can go and tell them what I see, but then I got to make them, convince them to buy into it.
But in discovery.
But if they discover it, it's theirs. So we shifted from vision buy-in to vision ownership and vision development.
Wow.
So they own it, so they'll develop it because they own it.
Where you own something,
They're not renting the vision.
Yes, they bought in.
They bought it.
Yeah.
Because it's theirs.
Yeah.
They answered those questions.
Yeah.
So anything that they recommended from answering those questions, I would put the money behind, because our vision is not what we say. Vision is what we put our money into.
Wow.
If you want to know a person's vision, real, true vision, ask them to let you see the books.
Yeah.
What they spend their money on.
Yeah.
Because that's the vision.
That's the vision.
The other stuff is just the fluff.
Yeah.
So we built it. And we've been building it for 10 years now. This is the 11th year. The school is internationally known, nationally known. We mentor schools in the region and around the state and outside of the state.
Yes.
And then I had a moment where in year 3, 25 administrators from the Netherlands requested to come to Bushnell to see what was going on in this little town, in this little school.
Town.
So that opened the door to another fearful moment where a leader of a conference, a national conference, came calling.
Yes.
And was like, we want you to come and present in the conference to other educators around the country and tell them about creating a PREP, a positive response education program. The superintendent in the same year came calling and said, I want to move your school from the current location. I want to add elementary students to the school so that we can do a little bit more of this to kind of prevent them from needing this in the middle school. Let's do some early intervention. So we moved and relocated. We started going to the conference, and I was blown away at the conference because there were leaders, specifically black leaders, male black leaders, who was trying to find the answer to the question, what do I do when the people that I'm leading can't follow me because I'm black? And I was able to say, I've been through that. I can tell you.
Thank you again so much.
Thank you.
So guys, remember to share this. Remember to subscribe. And whatever you do, do it on purpose.